us to host some session related to security, observability, or any such other topic. So you can also give us a feedback, so we can arrange a session, or we will work with as a team, and we can give some session to you. So meanwhile, I have a answer for the Alim's question. So this are community leaders which are working here. So we have a 6 people right now. So someone is creating slides, someone is hosting, someone is doing recording, and so we have these people here in the background who is working to make these events happening. So these are my people as a community leader, which are helping hands for Pune user group.
Wow.
And I would like to appreciate and thank you very much to all of you guys for making these things happen.
Since we have few minutes, I would like to take a chance to ask the new faces to introduce themselves. So if we know you, we will be able to provide you the perfect topics of your interest. So we have to do the KYC for you. So guys, please, new faces, introduce yourself. Let us know your learning skill in Splunk. That's fine if you are beginners. If you are, at the average level, please let us know, like where you are, and then we'll be able to provide you the next sessions accordingly. Also, please put your area of interest in the feedback form so that we will arrange the session likewise.
Hi, this is Parag here.
Hey, hi
I hope.
Parag.
Hi. So let me introduce myself. I'm from Capgemini,
Mhm.
and I spent close to 20 years in the IT. Most of the time is managed services. And how I got in connect with the Splunk is the Capgemini. I'm from part of the Cloud Infrastructure Service BU, where we have the shared services, which we also refer as GCC. And so far, we've been using the Tivoli as our mom, and now we are migrating to Splunk. In fact, as we talk, almost 10-15 customers were migrated, and another 60-70 is yet to get migrated on the Splunk. And that's where the interest started coming in. And we also bought some ITSI as a module. There is a specific interest what I'm looking for. And yeah, I've also done the few of the training which is provided by Splunk, because of partnership we got a lot of vouchers. So I did the training on the reporting, ITSI user trainings, and the fundamental trainings from Splunk. And I also able to do the first level of administrator certification as well.
Oh, great.
And that's how I got introduced to, and with more exploration I get to know, okay, there is a team in Pune who can really connect with. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Just
that's
to
me.
add to your thing, basically India do have user groups on Mumbai, on Pune, on Bangalore, on Hyderabad, and since this particular week is global weeks, so every session is going to be virtual. So take advantage by registering yourself to the different sessions that are going on. This is basically a week where we can learn lot of things, and yeah, I mean it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
And since
great.
it's a free of cost, on top of that, this particular week do have the takeaways, I guess, in every single meetup. So you can take advantage of that also.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
A lot.
I think for the Pune user group, we are planning to be virtual for the whole year, because it's like things are still be normal. So we will do all things for all meetups this year virtual only. So you can join us if you want to talk anything on our user group. You are most welcome. So we can decide, we can sit, and we can do this presentation over here also. Thank you, Parag.
Thank you.
Guys, those who are recently joined, I'm repeating it again. We do have the Google Forms for the takeaways. So please fill the Google form right now to be a part of Lucky Draw. So if you got selected, you will be get provided with some takeaways from us.
Okay.
Hey, hi, this is Siddharth this side. I currently working with the Accenture from last
Mm-hmm.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Completed my graduation in 2018, and since I joined Accenture, I am working with the automation. Like we are automating the tickets, as Accenture is a service-based company for the multiple clients, and there we use Splunk, Python, and other technology. So I have a hands-on on building application dashboards for those applications. Uh, Configuring REST APIs and sending alerts, and like on the development and the power user side, I've been working on the Splunk and little bit on the administration side using the forwarding and other things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Siddharth.
Yeah, last one. Let's take last introduction, then we can start the session. We'll go ahead.
Hi, myself Niranjan. I have 8 years of IT experience. So the Splunk, I'm working on Splunk from last 2.5 years. And so previously I am a Microsoft like .NET full stack developer and switched to Splunk. And I'm currently working as PS consultant for BitsIO.
Hey, it's Gauri's team only. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your introductions. So we have few housekeeping rules. So please keep your lines muted when you are not speaking. And we have our own Slack group. Hello.
Yeah, Rohit, go ahead.
Yeah. So we have our own Slack channel. It's a Slack channel provided by Splunk, and we have our own Slack channel for Splunk Pune user group. If you have any queries, any questions, anything, so you can type in on that Slack channel. So we will give answer after the session, or we will post it to Suman and his team to about the answer and etc. And in the meantime, you can join our group. So we'll paste the link in the chats also. In a few time, my team will post these things in the chats, so you can go join, and you can be part of our conversation for our next meetups. So these are few housekeeping rules. And right now we have I would like to introduce Suman. Basically, he is a host, and we have his team available. He's a co-founder and a CTO of BitsIO. So he have a team over here. So they are going to present us custom correlation searches, and they are going to demo us these things. Okay, before I will hand over to the team. So I would like to do some announcement, like what we are planning next. So we have invited Alim from the London user group. He's going to uh, talk to our user group on 25th of March, 6 p.m. IST. So before I will hand over to Suman and his team, so I would like to hand over to Alim for 2 minutes. Like he can tell a few things, like what he's going to talk about, and then we will start the session for the today.
Thanks very much. So I've been quite blessed actually in the last 9 years or so to have a really good series of experiences with Splunk. And I was a technical instructor for Splunk, partner of the year for Splunk. I ran the Splunk user group in London, and I now run it with my Splunk Trust colleague Oliver Hopper. For the last number of years, we've got like over 1,000 people have contributed to our group. So I'm really keen to be able to distill my experiences and share the lessons learned. Hopefully that will help to encourage and inspire some of the people from Pune. There's a lot of things I've learned, a lot of experiences, things I may have do differently. I'm keen to share what might help the Pune people in terms of having some tips they can bring with them to be more successful in their careers. Because Splunk is a massive area, and I guess when I first joined, it was smaller, but there's a lot of things you could do, a lot of things you might want to do, you might want to consider. So I've got a lot of experiences. I think it would be quite beneficial to share. And I'm also started on the path to something hitherto I've not done before, which was a Splunk certified consultant. So I'm really keen to share the experiences, the journey I've had, in the hope that whatever knowledge I've gathered over the years, I can share it, and we can all grow from that. Because one thing that's really important to me is being able to, whatever you have, to share it. So I've done lots of pro bono work over the years, spoken at .conf many times, helped a lot of companies around the world, always pro bono. So I'm really happy to know that you guys have those same values. So whatever I can do to help and to share what I've learned in any way, I'm happy to do so, because believe me, for each one, I promise there will be one little nugget that I hope will help to you guys in the future. So I'm really looking forward to it on March 25th. And I believe on the same day, I'm actually doing 2 user groups. We're doing a collaboration with Fort Worth as well on the same day with Suman. So that's going to be quite exciting. So looking forward to this talk. I'll say no more, but see you guys next month.
Hi, Alim. Nadeem here. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How to get that hat also? You should give the presentation on that.
I'm actually a member of Splunk Trust, right? And I will cover off Splunk Trust next month as well. And to be in Splunk Trust, you need to give your body, soul, everything to the Splunk community. Yeah, so I'm sure I have tattoos under here. Yeah. Be good is what you need to do. Be good and help.
Good. Thank you, Alim.
Thanks for the tip, Alim.
Yeah. Perfect. So I will hand over to platform to Suman and his team. So guys, please carry on. And thank you, Alim, for your kind words. So we'll see you on 25th of March.
Awesome. Thank you. I can take over from here. I don't know how you guys want this to be done, but it can be interactive. You guys can ask questions when you have something. Let me share my screen. Entire screen. You guys see my screen okay then?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So, I'll go with the quick introduction. I'm Suman Gajavelli, CTO of BitsIO. It was a pleasure speaking at Conf 2020 last year, and we were also Partner of the Year. I'm very, very passionate about Splunk. I started in 2013, I think around the same time as Alim. I think 2013 is when he started as well. I haven't done a lot of pro bono like you, Alim, but I've helped customers with Splunk solutions. But just recent past, we started giving time away to nonprofits and helping them, use more Splunk PS or Splunk at least. I've done several implementations since 2013. Helped a lot of Fortune 500 companies to small companies as well. I probably have done 50 ES implementations, 20 or 30 ITSI implementations. So yeah, I'm comfortable within ES and ITSI space. Not so much on Phantom though. So that's about me. Matt, if you quickly want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Matt Feely. I used to work in the DoD for a few years, and then I got contacted to start working on Splunk, and that was a lot more fun. And I haven't really left the space since. I've been here almost 4 years now, and I don't really plan on leaving it either. So it's a good product, and it's pretty fun to use. It's nice to kind of teach people how to use things, and it's also I learn a decent amount from the clients that I end up doing engagements for, so it's mutually beneficial all around.
Yeah, I think you all agree that Splunk projects are very short. I'm not sure how you guys think, but usually a couple weeks or 2 to 4 weeks, and you're helping customer implement their security solution or IT app solution just within 4 weeks. So customers are happy that they have their solution in place just in weeks, compared to other programming, other development areas where you have 6 months to a year to roll out some solution. So great. I will move on to the agenda. So I may have to do part 2 if everybody agrees later on. But I quickly wanted to go through. I don't know how many of people here are enterprise secure savvy, but I thought I'll just quickly go through the basics of enterprise security and SIM compliance, how to make data SIM compliant using the SIM validator, and talk a little bit about tags and event types, and list of some custom use cases I've seen. There are a lot of them that customers to create, and then we will be demoing creating one custom use case and also modifying existing use case. Let's see. So the most important, I think, for any enterprise security user or any company using enterprise security is SIM compliance. SIM compliance is basically what you normalize the field names to action or app or dest. Right here, if you see, you might have data coming from different data sources. It may be Cisco, Palo Alto, or any other your security appliance. But I think most important before you even use Splunk Enterprise Security is that you have to make the data SIM compliance. So SIM compliance, it's probably better to show you in the instance itself. Let me see if I can do that. Maybe I should have done the poll where how many of you have enterprise security, at least experience, or not even experience, but know or have trainings. So let's do data model. Pretty much what we need to do is we have to figure out what data goes into which data model. So anything in enterprise security is any dashboard that you see within enterprise security is based off of a data model. Data model is getting all the data from different source types and kind of have a table or predefined structure to the data. And then once you have the data, you enable acceleration to the authentication, right here, authentication. So we have the data model. So that can be used to populate your dashboards. Real quick, let me turn off. Okay. Here, what it's showing is, with the data, I think we have a lot of issues with the data. So if you see that, index equal to, I think this is internal, but the source type audit trail has issues of with the 12 fields within the authentication data model. All 12 fields have issues. So pretty much what you have to do is go to the data and then create those field names. So let me show you what fields we are looking at. So pretty much when you are doing the SIM compliance, you're basically looking at creating all your fields using these field names. So your IP might be saying something, but here we need to use the SRC as the source IP. Your data might have SRC_IP, but you want to create a field called SRC. You might do alias or something. So let me show you the data pretty much. So, and one other thing I think I want to point out is you have to be good at data model searches using T-stats because majority of your correlation searches will be dependent on those. So if you see audit trail, yeah, let's see, I think instance is slow a little bit. Matt, do you have issues with the instance? I see that it's...
I can try and search mine a little bit.
So pretty much a data model search internally, this is what the search will be, because you're basically doing index equal to whatever indexes there are, and then you use the tags and authentications. So SIM compliance, I definitely recommend you all to, I don't want to take up too much time because this is a use case building demo type of deal today. So I would say that, use SIM validator to make sure your data is compliant. And once you figure out that there are issue fields or more than 10, 20, 30%, then you have to go look at which fields have issues. So it says also here some message like no extracted value found. So you definitely have to extract action, app, or dest. Another thing I want to point out before you do even any correlation searches is tweak your event types. So event type is what creates a tag, and then tag is what makes data to go into data model. So what I recommend with my experience, that when you want to tune your enterprise security, tune down your false positives, I recommend that you actually change your event types. So just for example, if you see here, we are looking at Blue Coat proxy. A TA, when you download TA, it actually, the TA that you download, it actually does tagging and event typing, SIM compliance, all those things within the TA. But you can't really trust that for every event type, because sometimes it will just say source type equal to blue code proxy, all the data is a proxy web. But sometimes there is a good chance that not all the data within this source type is proxy web. So I'd like to have some condition like this. Maybe you can talk to the customer and say, hey, I think not all the data is in this source type is proxy and web. Maybe we need to add more conditions or more filtering of data. So only not blue code header equal to pound goes as a proxy and web. So this is another tip I would like to share with you all, that you need to tweak your event type. So SIM compliance is the first thing you do, and then event types is something I would actually do. Also, most of the times your enterprise security will not be performing as you expect, because I think a lot of the times you use the default acceleration. So the default acceleration is 1 year. I do not recommend that keeping it 1 year. I recommend this to be 7 days. Any SOC analyst or any company that wants to prevent threats, they would look at day, or they want to prevent anything within a day. So I think 7 days is good enough. I do not recommend 1 year. I think that will take up a lot of resources, and majority of the times your CPU cycles are used by data models, because data models get what do we say, accelerated every 5 minutes. So let me show you another place I look at before I go into the correlation searches. See. So when you figure out that there are so many source types that we need to send data to, by default there are once you enable acceleration, it actually looks at all the indexes, all the source types, and it will just use the tags that the data model is defined off of. So if you take authentication, I see that they're doing 3600. I think this is max summarization, max concurrent summarization searches. I think the whitelist is very important. That's what I want to make sure you all understand, that you mention what indexes go into this. If you don't mention, it is going to search all your indexes and all the data that it tries to find, all the tags. So you might have 50 or 100 indexes, and I do not want the authentication data model take up or look up all your indexes instead of just looking at these 3 indexes. And I would definitely recommend making this maybe 1 week instead. Any questions so far? Another place I would recommend all of you to look at, to have a good enterprise security, with the performance, running with a good performance, is to look at the audit within enterprise security. So, lot of times you may not get all the data that you're looking for, because because data models are still building and you might be missing data for last 5 minutes or last 15 minutes. And I think I also want to mention, I think there might be some data that's missing. If you have a correlation search that's running last minute, you may not have that data yet, because the data model acceleration is always about 5 minutes delayed. So I think I recommend doing anything last 15 minutes or last 30 minutes or last 1 hour. And this will show you that all the data models are accelerated fine, and you have all of them 100% done. If you see that there is something 80% or something, then you might be missing some data for correlation searches. Let me see what else I can show you.
So Suman, I have a question for you. So what should be
Sure.
the best approach to enable data models? Like we having 20 plus data models with us. So if I want to
Right.
enable data models in my system in enterprise security, what should be the best approach? It's like we can't do in a one way, I think, because it will take a lot of resources, or it may can unstable our whole environment. So what should be the best approach?
Yeah, one of the things Splunk does, I've done some of those to use case workshop is what we do with the customer. So it all depends on customer. Just quick question: are you working for a customer, or you're working for your own company? The setting up enterprise security. Just curious. Did you understand my question?
No, yeah. So we have our enterprise solutions. So
Okay.
I'm just curious, like how we can.
For your company, right?
Yeah.
So I think you have to reach out to the security analyst or security team, and do that use case workshop and see what kind of data is available within your company, and then what is important for you to monitor, what is critical, and you can do a phased approach. Okay, so like security domains, you can go ask them questions like access, endpoint, network, and identity. You might want to do that workshop and identify which data is important for you. And then based on that, you can finalize what use cases are important within the correlation searches that Splunk provides you. And then you can tell, based on what use cases you need, you can tell which data models are needed for those use cases. That's one approach. Or, based on whichever use case, whichever data is important, then based on that, let's say Windows authentication data, right? So you can say that authentication will be a data model that you want to enable there, if it is Windows data. If it is Cisco ASA, sometimes Cisco ASA has network traffic and also authentication data. So you can enable only those two if you're only looking at Cisco ASA. Does that make sense?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So I think what I wanted to show was, I think majority of the data dashboards, when you first install, you may not see all the panels show up. One, because maybe your data models are not summarized or not accelerated, because all of the searches that you see behind the scenes, they're based off of summarized accelerated data model. If you have a data model that's not accelerated, and if you run T-stats, it will not work, because T-stats can be run on accelerated data. So if you see this T-stats, then you definitely want to make sure your data model is enabled. Let's see if I can open that up. So anything that's showing yellow here, that means it's enabled, it's accelerated. And here, change analysis or SIM validation, the databases. So I think initially though, I think, I don't know, Matt, do you remember if data models, all of them are enabled, accelerated when it first installs?
So I actually think it's a little bit of both. There's a framework under data inputs, and I forgot specifically what it's called, but some of them might be getting disabled automatically, and some of them might be getting enabled automatically.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's it's one other thing. I think you brought up a good point. So if you ever want to disable acceleration, but you go to the page here and actually disable it, it will get re-enabled. So edit acceleration, you disable it here, and then you save it. But because you have this, the data inputs has a data model acceleration enforcement, if you do it here, what this makes sure is that your data models are always enabled, and if somebody mistakenly turned it off, this will run, this data model acceleration page runs every 5 minutes, I think, and it will enable your data model acceleration again. So you can see authentication is always enabled, certificates change. So so as Matt mentioned, I think these are all enabled when it comes, and these are the ones that are not, I think only 2 that are not enabled as or accelerated. So if you ever go and turn it off and then see after 5 minutes it's accelerated again, this is the setting you need to go and turn it off. So you have to disable it here. So
yeah, I think we have faced same challenge after the upgrade from 6.x version to 6. Some version. So that data model automatically got enabled. So it's like this thing also happened during the upgrade also. So we have to do the same thing, go to data inputs and disable those accelerations.
Yeah. And do you guys use, I think, you can do notable suppressions, right? Suppressing the notables. I do not recommend using, suppressions. You probably want to, instead of using the suppressions let me show you what I'm talking about. So I think there's a suppression audit you can look at. I would like have you guys look at the suppressions. I don't think there will be anything here unless you suppress a notable event. But if you are suppressing a notable event very often, I'd recommend rather fixing your correlation search and not have it generate a notable event, because for time being you might want to suppress a notable event, but if you're continuously suppressing a notable, probably it's better to actually filter out within your correlation search. Let's see. So one unique thing about this security posture dashboard is if you don't enable any of your correlation searches. So just to let you all know, so correlation searches are under content management right here. So if you don't enable any of your correlation searches, which are just basically like a saved search, If you don't enable any of them, you will see all zeros. This will be blank forever if you don't enable the correlation searches. If you're new to it and wondering why all the other dashboards are, populating not this screen, so you just have to go back and see, if correlation searches are enabled or not. So this screen totally depends on whether you enabled your correlation searches or not. And then this will give you different numbers based on whether it's network, endpoint, or identity, or access. So, and it will show you what notables, what correlation searches are enabled so far. So we see that there are 3 of them that are enabled right now. I thought I'll go through probably slides, but I think the live demo is probably better. I think I covered pretty much what needs to be done, but just to emphasize on what needs to be done before you even enable correlation searches. SIM compliance, use the SIM validator for sure. This will make sure you have right fields in your data model. It will also help you, with the proper threat hunting. I think you will get a correct data if you do this SIM validator correctly. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, you definitely want to tweak your event types. That way, you have only so much data going into your data model. Otherwise, your data model also will have too much data to be filtered out. So anytime you have this tagging done, make sure you want to use some filtering. That way, only part of the data goes into your data model instead of entire source type. And what else? I think in the data model acceleration, I definitely recommend not more than 7 days. I think malware is not really chatty, so malware can go 3 years, up to 3 years. Do you remember, Matt, what is the recommended time frame for malware? I think it's a little bit higher than regular other data models.
I actually don't recall the recommended for malware. And a lot of times what I also find is depending on the client's environment and their actual resources that are available, some of those get changed as well. So I don't normally adjust it if I don't see issues with them. But if I start seeing resource issues on the box, I'll speak to the client and see how they feel about adjusting some of those settings.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and also definitely, whitelisting indexes is very important to make your data model acceleration run faster. These are few that I found. There may be, it's very common across different customers, but I've seen a lot of the wherever I worked, they use some of these use cases, not from out of the box, but they created their own use cases. So, I mean, I may be able to share other use cases in a spreadsheet because there might be 50 or 60 of them to go through. But these are some highlights. So one interesting thing they were doing was, they were trying to see if anybody doing a data exfiltration, DLP, as part of their data loss prevention. So sometimes to not get caught, I think, the hackers might use a slow speed to, exfiltrate data. So I think we also calculated the bandwidth and try to figure out if any data is being transmitted at a low rate when you have a lot of bandwidth available. So these are some of the few use cases I thought I'd just mention. I think this is wrong, but I think, Matt, I think it's a good time to give it back to you, and probably you can take over from here. I think these are the ones you mentioned. Is that okay? I can pass this on to you now.
Yeah, that's fine. Is it okay if I do the presenting on my side?
Yeah.
Let's see. This screen. And then, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So a little bit about the use case background before we get into it. For this demo / example, what I'm really digging into is, let's say a client has a threat feed list that is in a CSV format. So they've uploaded this CSV that has a bunch of IPs that they know are potentially malicious. So let's go. And this specific use case was actually found on Splunk blogs in, I think, a 2017 post. But the idea is you have a CSV file full of IPs that you've listed as like Emotet, ransomware, WannaCry, those kind of IPs that like users that are within a company, they accidentally connect to a site, and then all the bad stuff happens from there. So this is for anyone who's trying to capture an IP that maybe isn't blocked right now, but they want to tell their admin, hey, we've seen this in our environment. Can you block this so no other users get onto it? So what you guys are looking at right now is just it's a blank CSV with a bunch of IPs that are all related to, well, this one specifically is Emotet. Our example is just going to be ransomware up top. So we'll look at enterprise security. So once we get into enterprise security, you're kind of met with this dashboard that lets you break out into different portions of the framework. But we're going to look into incident review. When I create correlation searches or I talk to clients about creating correlation searches, what I really want them to do at the end of the day is have the correlation search become a notable event within enterprise security so it flags. Anything that goes, if you have a notable event, it'll end up here if it ends up being something that needs to be looked into. I'll look on this dashboard real quick. So the correlation searches that I'll create for the demo, you'll see them come up as notable events down here. And then this is if it's a part of a SOC or if there's an admin that just needs a specific use case that's coming out of it, this is where they'd go to see if it actually gets flagged in the environment, and then people can open up whatever process they have into rectifying an issue. But so far, let's go into just a normal search. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the most important thing before you start going into your correlation searches is how do we know that it exists? So you have to at least have a query idea that you'd want to turn into a correlation search. And as Suman said, the majority of dashboards within enterprise security are all driven by data models. There are scenarios where you don't have to follow that, though. Not everyone has the Splunk courses that they've gone through that make you advanced search users or anything like that. So what you can do for the time being until your knowledge kind of grows and you become more acquainted with the product is just create a normal query. You can turn a normal query into a correlation search that fits into ES. There's drawbacks to it. Mostly what come to my mind is just how quickly the queries execute, which means how long the resources for that server get tied up on that box.
That's a good point, Matt. Yeah, not all of the correlation searches have to depend on your data models. I think if you are using data model, though, you definitely have to use T-stats and with summaries only, I guess. But if it's the index search, make sure it runs quickly. It shouldn't take more than 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, and that's important to know. If your query runs too long, it's almost worse off. So you either have to find a way to make the query a little bit better and more refined, or we start getting back into the data model portion where we develop a query based on those. The search that I'm running right now is in our Palo data. We're specifically looking at the traffic that's in our environment, and from the lookup table that I was showing you previously, there was a new field called IP description. That'll be right down here. So we see that in our environment, we have an automatic lookup field that we have an automatic lookup file that found an IP that matched within the file, and then we output a new field called IP description. So because we outputted a new field called IP description, we can actually make this the basis for our new correlation search that we want to do. So when you have your correlation search, or when you have your search or your specific use case even, and you know exactly what you're looking for, you can just bring it into enterprise security. So I'll copy this. We'll go back to ES. Correlation searches in general, you go to configure, content management. And then from here, you can go to type and go to correlation search. Now, enterprise security comes with a plethora of use cases that you can implement into your environment. The next demo portion, the next thing I'd like to demo after this is how to modify existing correlation searches. So anything that doesn't exactly match up to like what you guys would have for a definition for, let's say, account deleted, or maybe that's a bad one. Let's say brute force access behavior detected. By default, Splunk has some idea of what they define as brute force, but you guys might have a different one. So maybe if it's 14 failed attempts versus what you guys might consider as like maybe 2 failed attempts. So there are use cases and people have different definitions of those, and there's no limit to modifying what's out there within ES to make it more custom and more attuned to your environment and your specific business overall. So we'll keep continuing. We'll go to create new content. We'll click on correlation search. So my general rule of thumb when we create correlation search is that we create a demo or a test or a dev, some type of verbiage that alludes that this is in development, we're just testing it. Just for this use case though, we'll make it more refined. We're going to call this potentially. So we'll call this potentially malicious IPs. And again, the idea is there's an IP in here that's related to ransomware. So the search itself, I'll paste over from the other window. And we saw from this window that there are results that are here. And then we'll go down. The time range portion is pretty important. So there's another idea that within ES you turn on like a base layer of 15 correlation searches. Now that's not a limitation. It's more of a suggestion. If you refine your time ranges very well, and if you know exactly what you're looking for and your queries are written very well, you can increase the amount of correlation searches you have. But until you get to that point and you actually refine your environment, it's safer to stay within that 15 range so that the resources on your box are okay. And as long as they are, maybe you have a box that money wasn't really an issue and you made it like a super box, you can turn on more correlation searches. That's fine. And the other portion to this too is the amount of analysts that are available to actually rectify these issues. If you turn on 30 correlation searches and you're getting 100 events and you only have 2 guys working on 100 events or 100 issues, it's going to take some time. So the other idea is try and find the ones that you want to look at first, and then kind of grow from there once some of those get rectified. But at the end of the day, it is your environment, and you can do what you'd like. Those are just some smaller suggestions on why some people will say correlation searcher should be 15, or kind of preferences at that point. But there are reasons for it, and the majority of them just come down to the resources on the box, any limitations. It's more just to protect that box in general. The other one is workload for the users and knowledge as well. So for my time range, I'm going to look back 24 hours to now, and then I have a cron job that looks like it's scheduled every 5 minutes. In my mind, I don't have to have this schedule every 5 minutes. It almost doesn't make sense because it's going to continuously look back at 24 hours. It's what I would rather do, and this is going to be different for whatever use case you have, but I'll actually adjust this to go off every hour, and then I'll also use Cron Guru to better define exactly what I'm looking for. So we'll do every 5th minute, hour 1, hour, and I'm just looking at our time frame. So let's do 32, and I think I can get this saved before then. So now the new cron schedule is every 32nd minute of every hour, and it'll search back every 24 hours. If we go down here, another thing, again, with the scheduling that's kind of good to keep in mind is real time versus this continuous option that we have here. Real time is going to tie up a CPU core for that box for the search itself. So we try to generally steer people away from it. It's not that you can't do it. Again, you can have it, it's your environment. But if your box is really going to peg for resources, try and make it continuous. For real-time searches, I really try to steer people away from having these on consistently with enterprise security. And I think within Splunk Cloud, you actually have to create them as continuous. It's been a bit since I've looked at it on cloud, but I'm fairly sure it's something that's got to get adjusted on that side as well. So we'll keep going down. Within enterprise security, all the original stuff that pops up on these down here, these are more so questions. In order for this to trigger as a notable event or correlation search, what do we want the number of results to be? I just say greater than 0. And the reason why I say greater than 0 is because we also have something called throttle. And so you can pick a field, and the one that we're using for ours is IP description. 30 seconds. Oops. So if the value for this field comes up in the results multiple times, it's at least going to get ignored for 30 seconds since it was first found. Now this is kind of an erroneous setting right now just because we're searching back 24 hours, but just let it be known that you can throttle something by saying, I don't want to hear from this notable event every time the correlation search runs. If it's coming from the same field that we already know is an issue, it's in a change request ticket, we have to wait. But in the meantime, you don't have to wait and sit there and keep seeing that menu get populated by a bunch of these correlation results. You can sit there and throttle it back so it starts to ignore that one for whatever time frame you want to do. And the setting goes from like 30 seconds, yeah, as you can see, minutes, hours, days. I didn't know they could do months and weeks and years, but so you can ignore field values for a while if you'd like to, and it's something that you know that you're already looking into. What I didn't do is fill in the description field, so I'll do that as well. This portion isn't going to show up in your notable events down here. So if I was to click on potential gap in data, this is not the description that will pop up here. It's the description that actually pops up on the correlation management GUI if I go back one page. So this is just more for people to know, hey, this is the new correlation search we're doing, or maybe there's a description that calls it out and says, hey, this is our dev, or this is our development correlation search that we continuously go back to and modify for testing. So that's how this description is going to modify. Now, the piece that the majority of the time when we create custom correlation searches, or at least when I do for clients, what I want to do is create a custom correlation search, and I want it to generate a notable event. So when you create a notable event, sorry, enterprise security has an index called notable. That index is for what these results go into. So all the things on your security posture, anytime these notable events flag, it's actually an index just called notable. So for the correlation search, what we're actually creating is a search that the results will go into the notable index, and then when it's in the notable index, it will appear within the enterprise security dashboard right here. So for this portion, it's kind of cool because you can do a few different things that are pretty neat. One of them is you can actually pass token values. So let me go, let's say, so the notable event title, that's what's going to pop up down, not down here. Maybe, yeah, it is down there. So it'll pop up down there, but it'll also pop up. Let's see here when this comes up. So it'll also pop up when you pass token values, you can have it come into the name. And when I mean token values, that initial query we wrote up here for IP description, there's another field value called dest IP. There's another field called dest IP. So it's actually going to give you the IP that is in the CSV file that I was talking about for the threat feed. And what we can also do is output the IP description as well. So for our title, we're saying the potential and malicious IP is related to so that's just the naming convention that we're going to follow. Let's say the same thing. And then for development or testing, I highly recommend to just keep it as informational or unknown. And I would rather it be unknown than informational because there's a few correlation searches that will also populate like that. But again, it's more for management and kind of like general cleanup views. So if you have a bunch of admins that are staring at your screen and they're seeing urgencies of medium or high, they don't get the wrong idea that it's a current threat. So if it's just unknown, at least they know it's not something they need to pay attention to. So for this instance, I'll put it as critical. And then for the drill down will allow you as a user to click within, depending on how you do your search, but for this, just for this demo, my drill down is going to allow the user to click on the query itself to open up the actual events that Splunk found, and then your analyst can go in there and actually review it themselves, and they can say, okay, we do see this IP coming into, we do see this IP in our events, but it actually has the firewall blocking it, so we're okay here. Or, you know, the opposite, hey, the IP is coming in and it's actually being allowed. So that's what the drill down search is going to allow you to do, is click into it and actually look at the results. Let me go.
So, Matt, on that one, on the drill down search, I think a lot of customers would like to see the filter on that specific test IP. So if you add at the very end, like dest_IP equal to dollar dest_IP. So what this does actually is for them, maybe let's say your original search has 100 notables and they're only interested in this particular dest IP. So what they will do, would like to see is only for that dest IP. I think this is one lot of customers would like to do, like they want to only see the specific event, not all the events that are generated by the search.
Yeah, so that's 100% correct. The use case that we're following for our CSV lookup outputs this new field if the IP exists in that CSV. So unless the IP is in that CSV file, we don't even get this field. That's the only reason why I had that one in there.
Yeah.
But I do see
So,
a lot of clients do this, where they do
Yeah.
want to look at that specific one that does get flagged.
Right. Yeah. I think I want to mention, because I think in this case it's fine, but in other cases I definitely recommend you have the drill down search specific to that IP or specific to that host, instead of using your correlation search.
Yeah. Let me go back up to the top and just modify this cron schedule so it goes off in the next couple minutes. Let's do 8 and see if I can save this. So that's us creating a new correlation search. But before we look at those results, because it's going to take a little while just for the query to run and just for that to go overall. The other thing I do want to look into, or the other thing that I do want to show you, is what happens if you have a correlation search that is pre-built with ES. It's phenomenal search, runs, does everything you want it to do, but you do want to modify it because you have different definition or a different thing that you would specifically want to look into. So if we went to incident review, we don't see this on the notable right now just because it hasn't run for a little bit, or at least it hasn't flagged with the events coming in. If I typed in substantial increase in intrusion events, and I did a search over, let's just do 7 days. So we see this result right here for substantial increase in intrusion events. Let's go back onto this portion, content management. So what I'm showing you now is how we would modify something that's pre-existing. Before you modify existing queries that or existing correlation searches that ES had packaged together with the app itself, I do recommend just doing a manual copy by creating a brand new one and then disabling the original. If in the event that that doesn't happen and you accidentally modify something that does exist, I'll show you how to get back what the existing query was. It's not that it gets deleted, but it does get modified, and you just kind of have to find it on the back end. So this is the query on the original correlation search that's bringing up this result right here. But what I want to do is actually see all the results that get brought back. So in order to do that, I'm going to open up a search window. And when you modify existing correlation searches, or you want to modify a query in general within ES, open up a search window within the ES app itself. The reason why I say that is there's macros that exist within the app. And if you were to run it outside into, let's say, the normal search and reporting app, it might not execute correctly. So I try to keep it tied into the actual app itself so that we don't run into anything like that as issues. So let's do all time. Okay, so running this query all time, we see a bunch of results that come back. Let's say for us in our environment, we actually don't care about these different signature types. Let's say that none of these matter to us. We only want things that come up with HTTP. So what you can actually do is continue the query to do whatever search you want it to have. So we'll do search. We spell it correctly. We'll do search signature equals HTTP, and we'll do this. And we'll rerun the query and we'll see if the results change. So now our results get more dialed in. So this is how you can modify your existing correlation searches that were packaged with ES and make it more suitable for your environment to better define the definitions that you guys are specifically looking for. So from here, I'm actually going to copy the query and I will paste it directly on top of the existing, and I'll save. So for whatever reason, let's say I didn't know what my new addition was, and I forgot what the original query was. This is the portion where you don't have to really worry too much about it. On the back end, so I'm going to bring up this window. This is actually our ES instance itself. If everyone's been in Splunk, they're aware that they have a really good folder structure hierarchy where if there's anything that's custom, and anything custom is supposed to be done in local, and then anything that was original is done in default. So our local change, if we go to here, and then we can do vi saved search, we can actually see the search we just modified right here. But if we go to default, let's see here, this LTK apply. I believe this is the same one. And if it's not the same one, it's okay. What I more so just wanted to show you, the default folder that has savedsearches.conf has the original query in there. So do tiptoe with an ES, try not to break anything, but also remember that you can recover some of it. So when it, in particular with the correlation searches, if you accidentally modify the existing one, the original is still saved in the default folder. And if you want to get it back, it's possible. And that's all I really wanted to show for that portion. So we'll go back to our instant review and we'll actually see if the new correlation search that we created previously is executed already. And we see that right here. So when we click on the potentially malicious IPs and we go to the actual event itself, we'll see how those tokens look when they get passed through. And we'll also see what the drill down looks like as well. So this is the title that we created in the notable event. And you can actually, sorry if this is zoomed out too much, I should have zoomed in more. But we can see this is the one token value, and then this is the other token value that we passed through. So we have the IP and the ransomware. And then if we do the dropdown, if we clicked on all malicious IP results, we'll get brought to the actual events that triggered it. So this is everything from what Suman had mentioned earlier where we passed the token through. So these are all the potential malicious events from that one specific IP. And that's really from here, your analyst can go through and they can do additional work to see what they feel about it or how they want to modify it. But for demo purposes, that's really how you can create your new correlation search or how you would modify one that's existent. So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'll pass it back to Suman. If anyone has any questions, you can let me know as well. And the other thing I want to do too, I'm actually going to link the original use case in chat for the threat feed CSV list. There's a lot of clients that I've run into, they don't pay for a premium version of a threat feed, so they get a lot of it from open source material. So the use case that I specifically was trying to play off of, that's for more the people who don't have, who aren't paying for that type of stuff. It's super useful and it's nice to have. So I just want to make sure that people do see it if it's something that they're interested in. And I'll link that into the chat as well.
Hey Matt, this is Vaja. I have a question.
Yeah.
So these notable events, I was thinking like, is there a feature where we can automate saying, hey, this notable event is triggered and send it to support team via email or, create a ServiceNow ticket or something like that?
Yeah, so you can do those. We go back to, if I recall correctly, next steps.
Yeah, bottom.
Yeah,
if you see send email.
There it is.
Send email.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, so the way I've generally seen it so far is if you can do reactions with saved searches, whether it be emails, webhooks, enterprise security can do the same things as well. But I think enterprise security also has additional ones too. So like it can actually ping the IP. There's a few other features it allows you to go through with in terms of your responses for when it does notify. But yeah,
okay.
you can send an email.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen something like this in ITSI where you can do something similar to like this, and also send notable events to ServiceNow ticket, and then whole bidirectional integration. Everything is there. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it really does help. So the one thing I do notice with clients is the few that are large enough where they have specific admins that do one job for certain things. I've seen a lot of those emails just go directly to the admin, so they don't really have to look or be pinged by anyone else, and then they know right away exactly what they need to adjust. In the chat window, I'm going to share the link for the use case that we just ran off of. The use case that we built on for that demo, it's not the full version. I cut it short just because I want to make sure we had enough time to cover some other stuff. But what the use case will also allow you to do is look up the IP, and then the IP can go on like, it's like a bad IP site or something like that, and it'll let you know what it's related to, and it gives you more information for that analyst. But I'll stop sharing and I'll pass it back to Suman.
Thank you, Matt. I think we are pretty much done. Open for questions. If you guys have any, we can do a session where we can go through different use cases as well. Any questions, or Rohit, if you want to take it back?
Hey, Suman, thank you very much for your time, and thanks, Matt. So guys, if you have any questions, you can put on the chat. And I think Matt already said the use case. So you can copy paste all these useful links from this chat, because once this meeting is ended, you are not able to gather things. Anyone having any questions, please raise your hands, or you can unmute yourself.
I thought that was just fantastic, guys. But Matt, I want to thank you for the crontab.guru tip. I didn't actually know about that one. So
yeah, it's a good one.
It was there for sure. But it's just amazing when Suman speaks and the advice is born out of hardcore experience. It just makes such a huge difference,
Thank you. Thanks, Salim.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point too. For everyone that's on the call that just wants to learn a little bit more about ES, Splunk's a great product. The app itself, it's a great app to have as well. It is in depth. If you have questions, it's not a bad thing, right? Splunk does one thing very, very well, and it's the documentation. I don't think I've looked at other products that have done documentation quite the way they do. So if you have general questions about what's this one field do, then you can absolutely find it on Splunk docs. When I was first learning ES, it's something that I had to do often. It wasn't hard to find. But if you do have questions, then
Matt? Are you guys hearing him okay?
Yeah, it's breaking. Yeah.
Well, that was pretty much it. I was just saying, if you have questions, it's not a bad thing, and Splunk docs are always available, and they're very good at telling you what those things are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Splunk docs covered pretty much. It's like how we can do CM validations, which data model you can use, and all these things. So you can reach out to Suman and his team, and you can reach out to our user group if you have any questions. You can use Splunk answers. You can post the questions. We have a lot of guys from Splunk Trust who can answer, like Alim and all these people are there. And we have dedicated team, I think, in Splunk who responds the answer. So you can utilize those sources. You can set up your Splunk ES. So there are a lot of things to do. So there are a lot of resources are available online as well. So thank you very much, guys. If you don't have any questions, I'm just giving a final call. If anyone have any questions, so you can ask to the team. If not, we are good to close the session.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity. I'd look forward to doing more in the future.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Suman. Thank you, Matt, for your time. And thanks to
Sure.
all audience for joining. Thank you to leaders for arranging this session. And we will meet again on 25th of March with the session.
Yeah, yeah. We are hosting a lame this time, so we are looking forward for you.
It's going to be energy driven and buzzing. You're going to love it. I promise.
Yep. Yeah, I will invite you,
Right.
Suman, and his team as well to join the session.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Please do. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
a lot.
everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Bye bye.
Great
Thanks,
day.
all.
And Splunking and Space.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.